Welcome to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice.
Welcome back to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice with attorneys Sam and Vic Ivy of Ivy and Ivy Law. I'm your host, Lisa Mosby. With deep roots in West Tennessee and decades of courtroom experience, Sam and Vic represent injured individuals in serious personal injury cases and work to secure full and fair compensation when someone else's negligence causes harm. In today's episode, we're tackling a common question. How much is my personal injury case worth? Sam and Vic will explain why there's no simple calculator, what factors truly influence value in Tennessee, and how to think realistically about a potential recovery. Welcome back, gentlemen. Great to be with you today.
Thank you for having us. So good to be with you.
Sam, let's start with a question people often type into Google. How much is my case worth? Why is that such a difficult question to answer without knowing the details?
It's such a difficult question to answer because every case is different, every injury is different, every accident is different, and the way it affects every human being is different. No two cases are the same, and that's hard for someone who doesn't do this every day to kind of put that in their head. But every case is most likely going to have medical bills and medical charges related to the accident. Where things get a little bit more in a gray area is what does this person do on a day-to-day basis? What are their hobbies? How has this injury affected their life? Because you have economic damages such as the medical bills, lost wages, things like that. But then you have things that are harder to put a dollar figure on, such as pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, and permanency of injury. Those things ultimately would be up to the jury to put a dollar figure on. And so any 12 people could be different in how they assess the worth of that case, or how much has this affected the plaintiff, our client. So those things are why it's so hard to gauge the exact value of any one case. And I would want to Google it too, but there's just no straightforward answer for that. And we try to, address that with our clients as we go through the case. But good question.
I know I'd be susceptible to doing that myself. And it's interesting that you said jury, because oftentimes we don't think about that. If we go to a jury trial, they're going to have a big part, a big say in what that case is worth. Vic, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about average settlements in Tennessee?
Well, sometimes folks think that if they just have a minor injury, that they might obtain a large settlement. That may or may not be true, depending upon the profession that they had. A minor injury to a baseball player to his arm, if he was a pitcher on a baseball team, might be huge, but just a bruise on the arm to a normal individual might not be worth a whole lot of money. So you have to look at the profession that the individual has, their work life, work history, where they are injured. Certain injuries carry different values, and sometimes an injury to the body as a whole could be worth a lot more than others. And you almost hate to put a value on various body parts, but that's kind of what it comes down to sometimes, Lisa. So the severity of the injury can really, really determine the amount. That and also the earning capacity of the individual that is injured.
Yeah, severity and permanence. You've mentioned it multiple times in these episodes. It is really important and not something that we can always understand until they go through the medical process. Beyond medical bills, what other factors can significantly increase or decrease the potential value of a claim?
So one of the big drivers in value would be something like a loss of earning capacity claim. If there's an individual that was prior to an auto accident was making a substantial amount of money in a particular trade or something like that, and the injury knocked them out of work, hampered their ability to do that job or provide for their family in the future, we would probably get an expert life care planner or economist to work in tandem together to prove how much those damages would be over the course of their life if it's a permanent injury. If it's less significant of an injury, it could still equate to a significant loss of wages claim, and all that is different with each individual. As you can see, one wreck is going to affect someone much different than another one, and so every case is different, but that's one element that can really drive up case value. The other thing is, like we talked about, pain and suffering, things that you can't put a dollar figure on. The way that, it's getting to know the person. What activities are they not able to do anymore? What would a jury say it's worth to somebody with a neck injury and a broken arm, not to have to put shampoo on their head and have pain every day doing that? I mean, is it $20 a day? Is it $30 a day? I don't know what a jury would say there. So those are all the risks involved in going to trial too, and how we kind of gauge what the case may be worth based on certain categories.
There's a curious question popping into my head. How does credibility of an injured person, like their medical history, their work history, their consistency, how does all of that impact how a case is evaluated? Or maybe it doesn't.
Lisa, that's a great question, and veracity or truthfulness is always an issue when we start to evaluate a case, and especially when we wind up at trial on a case. I tried a case, this has been several years ago, down in U.S. District Court in Memphis in front of Judge Julia Gibbons. She's now a circuit judge, U.S. Court of Appeals, Sixth Circuit, but she was a district court judge then in Memphis. And I was trying the case, and I'd ask a series of questions, and the defense attorney objected. And of course, my response was, Judge, veracity is always an issue. So truthfulness is always an issue. From the beginning of when we first meet a client, they come in, we're talking to them. There are several different techniques that you can use to sort of judge the truthfulness of an individual, but we go beyond that and have investigators to go out and make for sure that the individual's telling the truth to us to start with, but all the way through the process, from the initial consultation through the interrogatories, individual answers, depositions, all the way up to trial. So veracity, the credibility, the truthfulness of that individual is very important. So they're going to go back and ask those questions about their work history, their medical history. All those sorts of questions are going to be very important. And so it's very important for the individual to give us truthful answers to those so that we can correctly evaluate their case. And then ultimately to wind up at trial with that individual on the witness stand testifying about all those things, and we can back those up with records. So credibility, truthfulness, veracity, all the same, but very, very important here at Ivy and Ivy Law.
The other one that kind of comes up, you mentioned jury pool earlier, and that's sitting with me. How does the venue or the jury pool in West Tennessee sometimes influence how cases are valued or resolved?
So many times the venue where we're going to file the case is usually where the accident happened. That's probably 95% of the time that's going to be where the case is filed in Tennessee. So we look at the particular county. We represent clients in a lot of rural counties out here in West Tennessee. Crockett, Chester. We're in Madison County, but we go all over Henry County, up by the river, Obion County, Decatur County, all the rural counties in West Tennessee, and those are all different. But folks around here do have similar characteristics, and so we're always looking at is our client somebody that these juries around here are going to trust and like? And as you mentioned on the other question, what's the veracity? Are they going to think this is a credible person and want to award them damages? We also handle a lot of cases with big commercial carriers, and those a lot of times get removed to federal court. Those are different because the jury pool will get pulled from many different counties at once. So whereas in a state court case, you may have 12 people that reside in that one county, in a federal case, you're liable to have many different folks from a number of counties around here. So that all is taken into consideration on trial prep and trial strategy on these cases to try to get the best results for our clients at Ivy and Ivy.
Sam, what you're telling me is that having somebody who's been a lifelong resident of the area and been in business for many, many years kind of knows the scope and the lay of the land, and that might be somebody you want to have on your side.
Thanks, Lisa, for getting right to the point on that. That's what I meant.
Vic, let's tie this all together, if you don't mind. Do you have a case, an example that you can share that will bring this all together for our audience?
Yeah, the certain cases are different. I'm thinking of two separate cases, two examples. One was an injury in a parking lot, which was a low impact type injury, car wreck, where our client, we thought originally had suffered minor damages because there was a low impact collision that occurred. Our client was not at fault. The other party was at fault. And so we initially thought that there was a back strain, just a muscular strain in the case. However, it wound up being that the individual had a ruptured disc. And so we wound up with a large value case, which initially we thought was a low value case, just based upon the medical proof and the way the case progressed. Now, the flip side of that is we had a case where an individual had been hit by a big rig on the interstate and actually we thought was going to be catastrophic type injuries. But after their visit to the emergency room and then some follow-ups with their medical provider, wound up their injuries were minor. So you just never know. You have to look at these cases on an individual basis to come up with the value and the amount of permanent type injuries. And so, Lisa, it makes a huge difference as far as the medical proof is concerned. I would say if you are in West Tennessee and you're involved in a motor vehicle accident, you need to call Ivy and Ivy Law because we have years and years of trial experience, and these insurance companies and criminal and tort defense attorneys know which lawyers will go to trial. And we're trial lawyers here at Ivy and Ivy Law.
Well said. Those are great examples, but they left me with a little bit more, another question to ask. How does available insurance coverage affect what can realistically be recovered, even if damages are substantial?
So the reality is that insurance coverage is very important. That's why we encourage anyone that we talk to about these cases to get as much uninsured motorist coverage as you possibly can, because you never know how much the other party is going to be carrying. Tennessee's not a no-fault state. We're an at-fault state, and the policies don't stack. So in Tennessee, the minimum limits are $25,000 per individual, $50,000 per occurrence. You can see how that will leave somebody woefully uninsured if there's, they have a significant injury. $25,000 won't even come close to fully compensating them. So we do look at other assets to go after in a situation like that of the at-fault party, but that can be much more difficult to collect. We always talk about the options with our clients on, what the next step should be. So if you have a situation like that going on, give us a call and we can walk through the, kind of the steps of how we analyze something like that. But insurance is very important, Lisa, on these cases. And so I would encourage anyone out there, check your policy declarations page and pull out as much uninsured motorist coverage as you possibly can. Because if you get in a bad accident by an uninsured driver, that may be your only recourse to compensate you. And they'll fight you too. Your own insurance company will fight you. But it's important to do that to protect yourself and your family.
I understand completely. For someone with a serious injury who received an early offer, how should they think about whether that number truly reflects the long-term impact of the injury before moving on?
They should give us a call so that we can discuss that with them. And we'll evaluate the case. An early offer sometimes is given if a person has a permanent injury and they may not know that they have a permanent injury. They could get a lowball offer from the insurance company just to try to get the case settled quickly. And it would be to the detriment of the client, because we're going to evaluate the case based upon what we think a jury would give to the client. A lot of individuals call attorneys based upon the way that they look or the way that they feel or whatever, but they need to base it upon the experience of the lawyer, their experience in front of West Tennessee juries. And here at Ivy and Ivy Law, we've appeared in front of hundreds of West Tennessee juries. So they should give us a call so that we can evaluate the case for them and determine whether or not the offer is reasonable.
The only thing I would add to that, I know we're wrapping up, is that an insurance company's main objective is usually to close the file for as little money paid out as possible. There's no way for a significantly injured client to know or have a crystal ball as to how their injuries are going to affect them 1 month, 2 months after a bad wreck. They need to call us. We'll go through the medical proof, and we'll develop the case to get them the most money possible out of the case. So give us a call if you've been injured in a automobile wreck or a big truck wreck. We'll get you taken care of here at Ivy and Ivy.
Thank you so much for your time today, gentlemen. I know in the past you said speed is not our friend, and we need to actually do the due diligence to make sure that we're covering all of our bases. Thank you for sharing and walking through all of these steps that are involved in personal injury cases.
Thanks very much.
Folks, thank you for listening to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice. If you've been injured in a serious accident and have questions about what your case may realistically involve, Sam and Vic Ivy are here to help you understand your options and protect your future. Visit ivyandivy.com to speak with Sam or Vic today, and be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and come on back next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.